So Last Door season 2, you launched it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, a few days ago.
Yeah.
How was it? How was the launch?
Well, the launch was, it was nice. It was nice to get that kind of support. We had like a private screening where we invited a couple of people just to take a look at the premiere episode.
Yeah.
It's the second time we've done that, and it was really cool to see people's responses.
Yeah.
I think though that the dilemma that I have with talking about The Last Door is that, you know, in as much as it's like a documentary program that I want people to watch, it's also about a very, very painful periods in people's lives.
Yeah.
And I struggle with, you know, sort of like walking that balance between okay, like, you know, here's The Last Door, come and watch it, it's an interesting show, etc. But the show is actually about, you know, people who had families, people who some of you might know, who died in like really gruesome circumstances.
Yeah.
So that's always like a tough balance. But I mean, what it's taught me is, there's a lot that goes on in this country.
So how do you carry that emotional toll? Having a family, like coming back home to your wife and you're like, okay, I've done this story. That's
actually a better question for McKenna than for me. It's actually it's a better question. It's a better question for her, because I can say that I carry it a specific way, but you know, I don't see my own reactions, and so they're the ones who, and so I mean, sometimes the answer that I usually give, the standard answer, is that I just come and I talk to McKenna about it, right?
Yeah.
So, or even just like try and educate the kids about what's happening, etc. But you know, I've had to catch myself one or two times when I get really animated talking about the problems that I've seen with children who want to be kids, you know.
Yep.
They want to believe that the world is somehow good, and you don't want to like break that altogether. You also want them to maintain that belief that there's goodness in the world. But when you see so much crime, so much violence, especially like person to person, things can be very gruesome. It can be tough to make sense of it all.
But sorry, I wanted to comment on John-Allan's reactions to his stories and The Last Door and everything.
Yeah.
I think having known him before children and with children, I think his reactions and his connections to the stories and his the sort of emotions that are evoked by the stories have changed. I think when he has to deal with an issue that involves a child, remembering that he has a child at home, and he has children at home, that will affect him very differently as compared to if he sees a woman killed. He's not going to think, okay, McKenna can be killed. I mean, it's going to be at the back of his mind, but it hurts more. I guess it affects him more when there's children involved.
That's true. Or when like the relationship, the parent-child relationship is very apparent in the...
Exactly. And you can feel that loss and that breaking of having lost the child.
Yeah.
And I mean, in truth, all of them are someone's child.
Yeah.
But like he says, that relationship really does change.
Like I saw the video you posted on Instagram on your stories last night.
Oh yes, about Carrollton.
Carrollton came on.
Yeah, man. Wow, that episode was so hard to film. I think people don't get it. Like, you know, she actually Carrollton's mom works for the KWS.
I didn't know.
Yeah, she's a ranger. She's a ranger with the KWS.
Yeah.
I think she's posted in Embu.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd been looking to sit down and talk with her for a while, and then it happened. And you think that 5 years on, it might not be less painful, but you have more, I guess, more resilience. But like her pain was so raw, like so raw.
Yeah.
But interestingly, everybody that we spoke to in that episode, like it was just over here, just beneath the surface.
Yeah.
And it just goes to tell you what kind of person that guy was.
Yeah.
You know, he was a brilliant human being. I had to catch myself, you know. Very rarely do I get emotional like on camera,
Mm-hmm.
and I try and be dispassionate, especially in those moments,
Yeah.
because you can get carried away.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just felt very different. It felt very like just that sense of injustice. Like, how do you visit it on a person who, this single mother has struggled with him? He's been such a source of joy and inspiration to her through his academic work and just through who he was, and then just to kill him, just randomly like that after a football game, for Pete's sake. It's such a, it speaks to, again, that thing of just normalizing violence and a certain level of corruption that allows for these things to happen. Because in as much as, Carlton was, Carlton's case is one that we know about, there are so many cases that are like that you'd be surprised. There are people who are walking wounded in this country of ours, carrying such deep pain and hurt because of how their kin were killed. That you can't even begin to imagine what that must feel like, So I guess now, speaking to The Last Door, that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Like, I'm hoping that in a sense it brings people to the table to talk about some of these very ugly truths about our country.
Yeah.
And in some way, for the people who've been left behind, gives them a sense of closure, in having the stories of the people who they loved, told in a way that's honest, but at the same time reminding people that no matter what you think of this person, no matter what they did or who they were, this person was a person. And we set certain rules in society that we shouldn't kill one another, and yet we consistently break those rules,
Pretty much, And so when you're talking to a victim, how do you balance showing them empathy while also trying to get a story from it?
I think it's just by being honest with them. Like, telling them, look, in as much as I want you to tell this story, this is how this story benefits me. I mean, I'm doing a series, packaging this series, it's going to go for this specific place. So just being honest with them, then also not trying not to manipulate their emotions, right? By, like, for instance, that thing of also like crying with them, it can be deeply, you're trying to emote, and many times that's possibly what happens in those kinds of interviews, right? Where it just happens naturally. But it can be very tough, I imagine, for someone to see you in that, sort of like reflecting or mirroring their emotions. And for them to now not to think that, hi, this person actually has, like a much bigger interest. Then now, you put place all sorts of hopes in their minds about what the outcome of the story can be. It's also being honest with them and saying, look, this story might not lead to anything. It might not lead to a just end. Your kin might not, your kin might not be, what do you call it? The investigations might not go faster. It might not change anything. And by them recognizing that, I think it also helps prepare them. But there've been very extreme cases where we went, actually just like once or twice, where we've asked like doctors or psychologists to accompany us to the field. But that's in very rare circumstances. I think that the short answer is just by being honest with them about what it is that you're doing there, and then also just managing expectations about what can happen. That usually helps.
And now when you work on a case, do you feel obligated to give them an update? Like
you have to fight that you have to fight that feeling.
Yeah.
It's natural to feel like you want to update them, and in some cases, you know, I have given in to that unction to do that.
Yeah.
But again, you have to remind them that you handle so many of these things. It'd be tough for me to be able to give you updates or to, you know. So again, it's just by being honest and acknowledging that whereas I can do something, what I can do is offer you my platform to be able to talk about the story and what happened, and possibly also now investigate maybe leads that haven't been followed.
Thank you so much for watching that highlight video. If you want to watch the full conversation that we had on the game drive, click here. I'm going to put it here. Don't forget to like the video, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, or even share with anyone who would be interested in this conversation. It helps my channel and it helps me make more videos like this. Asante. Bye.